With the BC provincial election just about a month away, voters throughout BC are getting ready to make their choice. However, one demographic might not be, and that's the young voters between the ages of 18 and 24. Just 1 in 4 young voters cast a ballot during the last provincial general election. So why aren't they voting? Well, joining us now, Newsday in BC student reporter Anna Yamaoka, who is a grade 10 student at Collingwood School in West Vancouver, one of the many students sharing stories that matter to them on the CBC today. Hello there.
Good morning.
So Anna, how engaged are younger voters in this coming provincial election, do you think?
Well, it's hard to say. I know a lot of youth voters who are able to vote, but they're not interested. Many teenagers said that taking the time to get informed just isn't a priority, and they feel that what politicians are talking about just doesn't pertain to them. Reading politicians' lengthy platforms can be overwhelming and confusing, so many potential first-time voters just don't bother. I spoke with several newly eligible voters throughout the Lower Mainland, and I asked them if they're planning on voting in the upcoming election.
I do not, mostly because I don't feel informed enough, and I don't think I would make a proper impact. The fact that a lot of people don't know enough discourages them from voting when they do have the chance, and it just isn't a very popular thing among 18-year-olds, I guess. To be completely honest, if every now and then someone were to come to a school and have an hour lecture, I think it would make a huge impact.
No, I am not. Mostly because I'm too busy with work and school and stuff. Don't have the time to, and I really haven't paid that much attention, to be honest.
For me, I don't necessarily watch a lot of television, and I look through the internet and stuff like that, but I'm really, to be honest, not that interested in politics. And so, I don't know, I think that maybe younger people don't necessarily think it's that big of a deal, and it totally is, and it's just building that base so that people will start voting.
So all those people we heard are ages 18 to 24, so they can vote, but none of them will.
And why do you think young people aren't voting then?
I spoke to a representative at Elections BC who acknowledged that since the 1980s, voter turnout and voter registration among youth has been declining, but they didn't have an answer as to why this is happening. Jessica Zan is a coordinator at the Vancouver-based nonpartisan group Get Your Vote On. They're a group of young people that are trying to make voting more attractive and engaging. The goal is to change the apathy that many youth feel towards voting and civic duty. Jessica said that the decline in youth voters may be partly attributed to the generation's mobility.
The youth generation nowadays is just being much more mobile and less tied to institutions. For example, compared to other generations, our generation is much more likely to move up before the age of 25, and there's a lot of stats that show that there's a 17% increase of voter turnout if youth still live at home, and then the less being tied to social institutions. I'm referring to kind of like churches or labor unions or that sort of thing, and that's normally where this kind of behavior, voting that is enforced as like a social value.
Now, we've heard from Get Your Vote On before in this program, Anna. What are they actually doing to get young people out to vote this time?
Many of the youth that I talked to said that they didn't feel informed about the process and they aren't motivated to go by themselves, to wait in a long line, to mark an X on a ballot. So Get Your Vote On believes in the importance of peer-to-peer communication. Jessica Zan said that when youth are talking with youth about voting, it creates not only a social compulsion, but it also makes youth realize that, hey, it's not just an old people thing.
We just try to make everything seem more fun. But in the last municipal elections, for example, we had like a bike to ballot endeavor where we got people on these sort of pimped up bikes with cool banners and stuff, and we actually biked people from their home to the ballot box. And just to make, the whole day a festival kind of feel as much as we could.
So that was Jessica Zan about the different ways to engage youth to get them more involved.
Just an old people's thing? That hurt. What are other ways they're trying to do it?
Well, this year, Get Your Vote On has partnered with Elections BC and Apathy is Boring, which is another group that's trying to encourage the youth to vote. And they want to make voting more interesting, comprehensible, and most of all, fun for young voters. Currently in motion is their Street Teens campaign. So groups of youth volunteers are going to all sorts of events where youth might be present, such as the recent Celtic Fest and Persian New Year celebration. Armed with registration forms, their strategy is to talk with youth to see if they're registered to vote. And if not, Get Your Vote On tries to register them on the spot. It's been shown that people who pre-register are more likely to go to the polls on voting day.
Just how important is the young vote to this coming election? What difference can young people actually make?
Well, whether or not youth realize it, eventually we're going to be inheriting BC. We're coming up next in the workforce and in supporting the economy. Therefore, the youth vote is very important. It's a chance for each of us to voice the kind of future that we want. All the youth that I talk to believe that we have the power to influence an election and that it's just a matter of actually getting us to the polls. As Get Your Vote On said, they want to make voting cool and sexy again. In just over a month, we'll see how many youth feel that way.
Anna, well done. Good story. Now,
Thank you.
You're in grade 10.
Yeah.
So you're still a couple of years away from voting. You won't be able to vote
Couple
in this
years
election.
away.
But when you're eligible, when you're on the voters list, will you vote?
I will most certainly be voting.
It's not an old people thing, you know.
No. And it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. Thank you so much. Anna Yamaoka, one of our Newsday reporters here in BC, and you can check out all the work that our teenagers have done by going to our website, cbc.ca/Newsday.